Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the North East Non-League Show, Northern Premier and Division 1 East Special, episode 16 tonight, sponsored by Beer Watch TV, Sunderland West End, Jade Bell, Durham City FC, and proud to support If You Care Share Foundation. Late substitution in the day today. Obviously, the Heaven Town lads couldn't join us tonight, had a few things going on. We're over the moon to say Dan join us tonight. Dan, thank you very much for coming in.
No problem. It's good to be here once again.
Excellent. Once I thought they weren't there, who could I ask to come on with the knowledge? Who knows anything about the North East football from yourself? And like you say, I absolutely love your work. And anybody that's watching, get across and check out Dan's channel because it's absolutely brilliant as well. But lots to go over tonight, obviously with the two divisions and starting with the Northern Premier League, which for the North East side of things, it's not looking too good at the moment in that division. The results from Saturday are gone from our teams: Guiseley 1, Morpeth 0, Liverage 0, Whitby 3, Marsk 1, Bamber Bridge 2, and South Shields 3, Ashton 3. The results on Tuesday night: Marsk game was postponed, and Whitby another good point at high 1-1. Just starting with South Shields, obviously still sitting top of the league, played 19, won 11, drawn 5, lost 3, and sitting on 38 points. Dan, what's your thoughts on South Shields this season?
Well, it's maybe a bit hard for me to judge with South Shields because I've only seen them twice. One of them was a friendly at Berwick in absolutely sweltering conditions. It was a rotten game of football, I must say. But bottom line is, it was only a friendly. But I can't say I was massively impressed with him that day. But the other time I saw them was obviously against Forest Green in the FA Cup. I mean, a total free hit in any case, and they obviously really gave Forest Green a lot to think about, especially in that second half. It took an absolute once in a lifetime kind of goal to sort of take the steam out of him, really. But it's unquestionable this year that Shields are under an astronomical amount of pressure to get promoted. I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, if you think it's no hidden secret the amount of money they've invested. Look at some of the players they've brought in, especially. I think obviously there's the full-time status as well, but with all that comes obviously the extra added pressure that they'll be sort of regarded as the team to beat for a lot of the teams within that division, and I think at times maybe that sort of pressure gets them, and they'll always, I think, like what Shields sort of experienced in the Northern League and in the division below is obviously their budget was obviously much sort of bigger than sort of the rest of the league combined. Let's be real about that. But now they're playing at a pretty high standard. Like obviously you've got National League North football on the line. You look at like you get promoted to the National League North. Like you look at some of the games Shields would have in that league next season. Possibly
amazing, wouldn't it?
Darlington if they stay down, Blythe if they stay up, Spenny Moor, Scarborough on Skane. God forbid Gateshead if we go down. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen.
Yeah, definitely not.
But yeah, and it's just think like what Shields are always going to find. What I've always found since they've been in this level is obviously they've been sort of favourites to win it every single year, but there's always been a team that's come up, that's sort of risen up and been sort of a real challenger. Obviously, I think the first year, I think Farsley Celtic ended up winning a league, and obviously Shield ended up missing out in the playoffs. And then there was obviously the 2 years that were curtailed because of COVID. But after that, it was Buxton that rose up and eventually took the crown. And once again, Shields sort of cracked under the pressure in the playoffs. And I think, this year is sort of has to be the year for them, really. Otherwise, it really does beg a lot of questions, like maybe even like how much more money is Jeff Thompson willing to invest? I mean, don't get me wrong, like I do have a lot of respect for Jeff Thompson, because I think obviously he's always had sort of the club's best interests at heart, and
Definitely.
stuff like that. He's obviously invested a lot in the stadium, a lot in the playing squad. His ambitions clear for all to see, but there's only sort of, but even then, like everyone hits a certain point with something, a point where they maybe feel they've gone as far as they can go, and it's it just raises a lot of questions really, and I just think with Shields, it's just seem really quite inconsistent. Really, like, you think I'll often like sort of string a few good results together, but then all of a sudden I'll go and drop points against a Whitby or something like that.
Yeah, it's good. Like, yeah, my mate's a massive Shields fan as well, and he's kind of said, obviously, they just kind of get that, as you say, that the run of form going, they'll get a good win, and then I think, right, we're going to push on now, get 3 or 4 wins, and then it's a little draw or just a shock defeat. I think now, obviously, sitting joint top, but they've got that 2 games in hand. If they can get that 6-point gap, hopefully then they can really push on and hopefully then make a difference and hopefully get up as well. But even just between first and 11th place, I think it's about a points turnaround of around 8 points, which is quite strange, that league, because you always see 1 or 2 teams really pushing on and then one team making a late push for it. And I mean, it's Saturday gone 1-0 down, but 3-1 up. And you're looking around the 83rd minute of the game and you're thinking, we've got to come at least away for a point here. And to concede 2 goals so late on the game, fans and obviously Kevin Phillips as well, they must not be happy with kind of what they're seeing, so giving away sloppy goals like that. And I know my mate, he's kind of said the fans are still 50-50 with Kevin Phillips. They said because the amount of money that he's got and the wages would be so much clearer in the league. Some said he's playing a good right way of football, some want a bit more. I mean, do you think he is still the right man for the job, and do you think this is a season that they can finally get that promotion?
I mean, with the appointment of Kevin Phillips in the first place, it was a situation that raised a lot of eyebrows sort of within the whole non-league in general, not just in the North East. Because obviously, I think the day they sacked Graham Fenton, I think they'd actually won the day before. So I think that sort of really like added to it. And I think I don't know what it was. I don't know if like what I heard from 1 or 2 people was maybe they're a bit like they felt as though like the novelty had worn off a little bit. People weren't as interested. Maybe they were noticing a slight drop off with the crowd, and I just think maybe the thinking was to get people that were maybe it was interested, maybe dwindling a little bit, to come back into the to start coming back to the games, if that makes sense. But I mean, it's I personally didn't get it when I did get it and I didn't get it, if you know what I mean, with the with the whole Kevin Phillips situation. And I think obviously when they lost in the playoffs last season, everyone was saying, "Oh, it was a terrible appointment," and stuff like that. I mean, obviously at that point he hadn't really had much of a chance to assemble his own squad and things like that. Whereas this year,
that's it, isn't it? Yeah,
he maybe has. So I think as long as like they get themselves over the line with that promotion this year, I just don't think, like, obviously nothing else matters after that. And I think obviously, as you said, a lot of Shields fans think there should be quite a bit clearer, but this division has never worked that way. Like I can't remember anyone like walking this league, if you get what I mean. Like, I think like as Shields are experiencing now, there's always someone else that like obviously will invest quite heavily in their squad and want to
go for it,
push on into the National League North as well. And I think that's just what they're going to find. What they're just going to find now, and I think, it's going to be. I think Shields will do it this year, but I don't think it's going to be as pretty or as straightforward as people maybe might think. Yeah,
to be touch and go. Any Shield fans watching, get your comments in as well. I know obviously with the likes of Liddell, Newton and Woods, Football League experience, hopefully that should see them over the line. Next, moving down to the bottom half of the table, starting with Whitby Town now and sitting in 16th place. Played 21, won 7, drawn 4, lost 10, and now sitting on 25 points. Awful start. Obviously, Bullock leaves the job. Haslam comes in full time. Matthew Bates then our assistant. And just that period of them 3 weeks of the manager going, and you obviously putting in one manager in place, Bates coming in, it was just players going, players coming on loan, more players leaving. And I think now it's just kind of settled down. They've gotten a squad that they want to go out there and hopefully push on toward the end of the season. I know we had Shane Bland on the other night, and he was kind of saying it was just a weird start where they were expecting a bit better. Obviously, the players that they got in, but I think it's always the same with Whitby, and Shane said exactly the same. You'll have one good season, and then the likes of, like you say, Darlow will come pick your best 2 players. The Northern League side will offer more money that there. Whitby can pay, and it just breaks that side up. But it's been a really hard start for Whitby, but things are starting to look a bit more promising now, aren't they, Dan?
Yeah, I hope so, because I really do like Whitby as a club. I mean,
cracking club.
Sure, I've said on my own personal YouTube channel a couple of times, I really like the ground and things like that. But I think where Whitby are as a club, I think they're one of those that are maybe at the level, really. I think I do think if they went up, just think it'd be a monumental struggle for them. I just think, obviously, I think like they're only getting crowds are 3, 4, maybe 500 at best, and things like that. And in this day and age, at National League North level, like that's not really enough to sort of get by on, unless you've got sort of notable financial backing. But I don't think Whitby are the sort of club to do that. I think they're all the sort of club that sort of play within the means and things like that. But you're right about the whole situation about they're always going to have the best players sort of picked out once one season ends. Obviously, last season they had a lot of firepower up front. You think the likes of Hazel, I think had Hazel and Fuster, sort of the partnership that was quite revered across the whole of the Northern Premier League, and like a lot like Whitby, I think last season just finished outside the playoffs, didn't they? But
yeah, very good season
for them. That's not a bad season. You think some of the results I picked up as well last season. I think they took 4 points off of Shield. I saw them in the local derby against Scarborough in the early stages of last season. Absolutely destroyed them that night. And you think how well Scarborough went on to do the rest of that season. So there always has been like something there, and I think like with Whitby, it's always like when you go there, it's always going to be a bit of a battle. It's a bit of a psychological thing. Like you think who wants to go who wants to go to Whitby on a January Tuesday night and things like that.
Oh, that's it. I mean, like you say, the last couple of games beat Liverpool 3-0 on Saturday, but the 1-1 draw during the week against Hyde, who's sitting second. Harry Green late on equaliser. I mean, what a cracking result that is down at Hyde, and it's just going to give the lads, the management, just that confidence to now hopefully go on and get them wins and just get away from the relegation. Because like you say, a mid-table finish now after the season, it's how it started. That would be a great finish for Whitby, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and I think I never thought there'd be in any like real danger of going down anyway, because you can go on and on about all have lost goal scorers and things like that. But obviously, there's more to a football team than just the strikers in there. And I think would be. I think the sort of position they're in now is where it will be come the end of the season. But then I think might be the same thing again next summer. Like the best players might be sort of getting looked at by, as you say, maybe 1 or 2 Northern League clubs who've got the money to invest. Maybe even like your Spennies, your Darlows, maybe even Scarborough and teams like that that'll maybe coming for their players. But I think I've always wondered what's it actually like to be a Whitby fan, where you just sort of know every year that really there's always going to be a few worse teams than you, so you'll probably always stay up. But you're probably never really going to have enough to be in sort of actually finishing a playoff spot and sort of really push for promotion.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting, like you say, if they can keep the run of form going, maybe nick a playoff spot. You never know. Really interesting going to that one as well. And obviously now with the good draw down at Hyde during the week, now puts Whitby above Morpeth, who now sit in 17th. Morpeth played 21, won 7, drawn 3, lost 11, sitting on 24 points. Myself, I think a lot of Morpeth fans would say the same, and management, they were expecting to do a lot more this season. And I mean, at the moment where they're sitting, it's a dangerous place in the league because, yes, a couple of wins, they could be sitting in top 10. But if them couple of teams below them pick up a couple of wins, it could be slopping down into that bottom 4. They've got to be really careful how they kind of go on from now. Looking at Morpeth, were you kind of expecting a lot more with the squad that they've got there this season?
Well, it seemed to start like this last year, if you remember. I think.
Yeah.
I think it got to Christmas time. I saw them at Scarborough just after Christmas. And I think they went into that game in 16th place. But on that day, I thought they actually played really well, and obviously were extremely unlucky to only come away with 1 point at the end instead of 3. I mean, it's just an absolute worldie of a free kick, which meant that they only came away with just the 1 point. But I was looking at them that day and I just thought, this lot are a lot better than 16 for that. They're surely a lot better than 16. If you look at some of the players that have sort of able to attract at the minute, like you think there's players in that Morpeth team that were obviously playing just a few years ago, maybe in the National League with Hartlepool and Gateshead. So they clearly can sort of be like one of the major attraction points for players in the Northeast that are maybe looking to switch from full-time back to part-time. But how does that sort of work as a team dynamic? That's sort of maybe the question you've got to ask. I mean, obviously last year, I can't remember where they finished, but I don't think they're anywhere near relegation zone, even though they were sort of down there for quite a substantial amount of time. But obviously as well last year they had the runs in the FA Cup and FA Trophy, which maybe a bit of a factor. But I think, like Whitby, I think there may be a club that, in terms of where they're at now, in terms of size of the fan base and various other things, that have maybe found their level in a way.
Yeah, it's mad, like you say, in that league, because you are literally sitting one division below the Conference North, and you put a few good wins together, and you could be in a playoff. You have a lucky playoff, and you could be in that league, and you never know. You have that ability where you then go up the league, you then have that bounce where you might get promoted. And before you know it, you could be sitting one division below the Football League. It's absolutely mad just how quick it can change in the football. But I mean, just getting onto the chairman of Morpeth, Ken Beattie, and I know obviously he absolutely loves the club and everything. How long do you think, if they do keep going on a bit of a poor run and keep not picking these wins up, do you think you will give Manager Lynch more time, or do you think you could pull the trigger?
It's what I've always found with Ken Beattie, like, again, he's always put the best interests of Morpeth Town first. I think he stood by Dave Malone and Nick Ray for a lot of years, and he got his just rewards with that. But I don't know. It all just depends on how he sort of personally sees where he feels Morpeth could be in the next 3 to 5 years or something like that. Like, could they be in? Does he feel they could be in the National League North, or maybe even the National League? I think if he plays his cards right, I could potentially see Morpeth sort of pushing towards the National League North in the next few years. Like, you think about it, like, you think Spenny went into the National League North and have been fairly comfortable in the National League North ever since. He's had a one run to the playoff final. Obviously, ever since they've sort of been a bit of a mid-table team, but there are similarities there between Spenny and Morpeth. I think obviously you get a lot of comments about sort of more the style of play and things like that. But the one of those teams that'll like there'll always be a battle for everyone, and they're always like I think you can maybe say capable of getting.
Yeah.
Off anyone, I was having a bit of a check through the results the other day, and I noticed earlier in the season, I think they beat Hyde 3-0. So the quality is definitely there. It's just, I think it's just for them. It's just can they show that on a more frequent basis?
Yeah, hopefully they can start picking up some points. Next we get on to Marsk, sitting 19, played 18, won 7, drawn 2, lost 9, and sitting on 23 points. And I normally have everything off the top of my head to go on this one, but the amount of stuff that's happened down there, I've had to kind of jot down a few things on this one. So obviously, coaching, Clark leaves and rejoins 5 days later. Carl Jarrett leaves. Foley, Raum, Butterworth, Catterick, all put on the transfer list, all leave as well. Woodhouse appointed, and there's just players in, players out again. There's just no stability, but looking now, hopefully they can just start getting something put together, because it was quite a strange time on social media over the last couple of months with the amount of players that were leaving just out of nowhere. A lot of fans were asking a lot of questions. I mean, just first of all, what was your thoughts on the last couple of months, just on literally the players' ins and outs and managers leaving, new managers coming? It's been a crazy time, hasn't it?
Yeah, obviously I live in Gisborough, so I'm not that far from Marsk at all. And it's like, I think one thing you notice with Northeast football is if it just like we sort of got like obviously like as a region, I was sort of quite tight anyway. But then you always get like it sort of split into 4 segments. Like, say for argument's sake, if in Northumberland, if something happens at Ashington, then Bedlington, Blythe Town, Blythe Spartans, Morpeth, they're all like fully aware of the situation. It's the same on Tyneside, it's the same on Wearside, and Teesside's no difference. They obviously go to a lot of games like down here during the week and things like that. And there's always a lot of talk about Marsk, and I think a lot of the time with Marsk, one of the first things that comes up is the grounds. Like, I don't know if they've been told something or not about
right.
Like, did I need to get the ground up to scratch? But the thing is, with that ground, like getting it up to whatever standard is easier said than done, because obviously you've got it's surrounded by houses. I mean, I know they've done 1 or 2 bits since getting up from the Northern League, but how much more can they feasibly do? That's sort of the real question about all this, because you can't exactly ask the residents to leave their homes or
pitch a bit in the back garden
or give up the sheds or anything like that, so the football club can put a new stand in or anything like that. So there's a lot of sort of sticky issues logistically for Marsk at the minute. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, at the end of the season, I've heard 1 or 2 rumours that they could be relegated irrespective of where they finish. And I don't know if that's maybe being a factor in the amount of departures. I mean, some of the departures have, I think, really raised a few eyebrows. I mean, obviously in the summer there was a couple of outgoings from that squad that had really that kept together and obviously gone on and won promotion. I think the likes of Matty Timon leaving and players like that. And I think recently, I think the one that surprised me most was Ryan Catterick going out on loan to
really eyebrows raised.
Going out on loan to Northallerton. Because I just think, like, from what I've seen of him, he's like he some of the performances I've seen from him, like, obviously I watched him quite a bit last season. I've only seen him just the once this season. It was a pretty poor performance from them against Lancaster. But from what I've seen of him, he maybe wouldn't look out of place in the league above. Like, he's always been quite solid. So for him to drop down, 2 leagues to a team that realistically at best are going to be mid-table in Northern League Division 1. I mean, I know Northampton have done this a couple of times over the last couple of years or so, where they've sort of been down near the bottom, then they've sort of brought in a bit of a marquee signing online. I think last season they brought in Dale Hobson. This year they brought in Ryan Catterick. But there's like with Mask at the minute, it just seems really like a lot of things are happening, and it's just sort of bewildering people. Like you look at that North Riding Senior Cup game they played last week, where they had to play one of their outfielders in goal for the whole match. Then I think the penalty shootout ended up being one of the highest scoring penalty shootouts there's ever been, because by the end of the game, both teams had to have outfielders in goal. Obviously, eventually they were knocked out by South Park Rangers, which the team that Mask had out that night, even with an outfielder in goal, you're probably looking at it and thinking, yeah, it's absolutely wipe the floor with this lot. But of course, that just never happened. But the thing with Mask is like obviously they're still in the FA Trophy, and would you bet against them to put Marine out the FA Trophy? Like you maybe won't, especially with the game being at Mask. Like a lot of sort of stronger teams have come unstuck or only come away from there with a draw. I think how much Chester struggled against Mask in the FA Cup last season. Gateshead needed 2 attempts to get past them. They will have made a lot of money from that FA Cup run. But I think maybe now, like, look at the situation they're in with a lot of not being able to keep a consistent team together and things like that. Like maybe now the questions are being asked, like, where did the money actually go? And it would be a shame for them, like, for all the work that they've put in over the last couple of years or so for it to all go down to pan, because there's some great people at Mask that have deserved all the success that they've got. But right now it's like, where's the stability actually going to come from?
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, 2-1 loss against Bomber Bridge, last minute penalty. I think all 3 goals scored was penalties in that game as well. But yeah, that's our quick roundup of the Northern Premier. Just before we move on to the Northern Premier Division 1 East, Matt Fulfair up the dial up. Yeah, doing very well this season. Hopefully keep it going and finally get out this league. I would love to see you go up this season as well. Any more comments? Get them in. Everyone that's watching, again, really appreciate your support as well. Getting on to the Northern Premier Division 1 East, this is one of my favourite divisions. Just having a bit of chat there before the show, full of North East teams, which is absolutely amazing. Just shows you how strong we really are. Saturday results: Bridland 1, Hebburn 2, Dunstan 3, Cleethorpes 2, Grimsby 2, Concert 2, Stocksbridge 1, North Shields 1, Stockton 1, Long Eaton 2. Great division. Starting just as we're going down the league table, sitting in second place at the moment, Stockton on 41 points. But a couple of losses in October. Obviously, the big ones against Dunstan and Pontefract. 4 games unbeaten, but still sit now 8 points behind Walksop after that 2-1 loss on Saturday. Earlier in the season, it was always kind of between them and Hebburn who would possibly win the league, but Walksop just came out of nowhere now and kind of sitting up top with that kind of point gap. I mean, what's your thoughts on Stockton this season?
I think obviously they've recruited really well in summer. I mean, obviously it's been a massive psychological blow to them losing that playoff final the way they did last season, especially against another Teesside based team. But they seem to have recovered quite well. I mean, I think it wouldn't really be that much of a surprise if Worksop go on and win the league. I think, like, for that sort of level, like, maybe would have to regard Worksop as quite a big club. Like, I think historically they're always sort of in and around the division above, or maybe even what was the Conference North. So maybe it wouldn't be that much of a surprise if they missed out to Worksop. But I definitely think the quality's there within the squads, and I think obviously the lessons that they will have learned from last year and stuff like that. So I think they can get themselves up via the playoffs. It's just a case of, can they get like get some consistency going once again, and like obviously like show up when it really matters. I mean, not that they didn't show up in the playoffs. Like, I think obviously went down to Cleethorpes in that semi-final, which was just like it's always going to be a massively tough game, but they battled through it and got it won. Then obviously, I think that playoff final, it was like people maybe looking at it as one of those that just could have gone either way, and just on that day it just wasn't to be for them.
Yeah, like I say, hopefully with the likes of obviously Stevie Thompson, Mickey Roberts, you're always going to create chances to score goals. So fingers crossed they'll keep pushing on. Hopefully narrow that gap between Walks. So next up, sitting fourth in the league, Hebben are sitting on 31 points. And again, like you say, they're just sitting second for so long when these teams just came out of nowhere as well. But look, like you say, the last four losses now in 6 games. Starting to not go on that little run where they had the quality, obviously, and it just seems the thing where something's not going right or something's just not jigsaw's in the right place. I mean, just what's your thoughts on Hebben this season?
Well, I think for them, like obviously last season it was only their first, I believe it was only their first season at this level. I think they maybe had like one or two more, like maybe you could say teething problems than maybe what the likes of Stockton did, what obviously historically what Morpeth did going into that level. But I think it was like the potential was always there within the club, and I think they're maybe just starting to get to grips with that now, because you got to remember, like you go up from the Northern League, suddenly everything changes. Like you obviously like spending a lot more money on like just things like traveling and obviously longer journeys and things like that. So you got to get the players in that obviously these are part-time clubs that can actually commit the time to doing like your journeys down to maybe your Long Eatons, Worksops, Lincoln United, which for that level are very long trips. Obviously, if you're the fan of the National League club, like they're probably seeing like tiny journeys, but for clubs like that, it is a big thing, especially when you are only part time, as I just said. Like I think before they went into that league, like, I think obviously they only really had one major trek all season, which was Penrith, which probably isn't even that major. Like, but that was only one game, whereas now it's like you're down in down like West Yorkshire, East Midlands, and places like that several times a season. So I think it was like I think they've maybe, when you think about it now, maybe going about it the right way. They're not sort of rushing anything. They're sort of buying the time with it, because I think maybe they sort of know that if they'd gone up again, like they would have just gone into the Northern Premier League and really struggled, especially like obviously as it's transpired, they would have been in the same league as Shields and Morpeth and clubs like that.
Massive step up.
And clubs like that, and you think like the sort of players that they need to be able to last at that level, and if you're competing with clubs like that have been there and done it at that level, it would have been a major struggle for them. So I think it's I think they're being patient, and I'm sort of all for that. I mean, I think with the Northern League, like I think we're all a bit guilty up here of being sort of somewhat arrogant with it. Like we think, X team's gone up from the Northern League, I'll just go in that league and absolutely steamroll it again, which now isn't often proven to be the case. Like you think last season it was the Liversidge that won the league, and obviously they'd just come up from the Northern Counties East League, so it clearly shows maybe the gap between the Northern League and like the Northern Counties East League and the North West Counties League. I can't remember what the one that teams from like Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire go into is called, but
but leagues like that, like maybe the gap is that bit narrower now, and I think we're sort of finding the effects of that, and we probably will do the more the years go on. I think, as I was saying off air, like you look at the drop in the Northern League's FA Vars performance since promotion became compulsory.
Definitely. I mean, one thing I'll say about Heaven, I know we've had Bobby Moore on the channel, and he's just his hunger, his desire to show people what he's about, how his teams play football. We'll be in and around the playoffs come the end of the season. I mean, it's just nice to see Stockton, Heaven, and Dunstan that we're going to get in the moment. If they be in the playoffs, we hopefully guarantee at least one of them to go up the next division, which would be absolutely amazing for the North East as well. And next, just sitting behind Heaven in 5th place is Dunstan on 30 points, 1 point behind. And they're just starting to pick up a few points now. Obviously, when you bring in the likes of Finnegan, the experience, the goals done well, Gilbraith on a good spell as well. But you're always going to get a battling performance from Dunstan when you got Swales in charge. And I think it's unbeaten in 4 now. It's always a hard place to go. They're always a good, solid side. What's your thoughts on Dunstan so far?
So I think just hitting the nail on the head there. Like, you've got a lot of good sort of professional people within the overall setup at Dunstan that have been there and done it before. You think you've got Chris Swales as a manager, then you've got the likes of like in a playing squad, you've got the likes of Phil Turnbull and people like that, John Shaw that are playing for them. So you think they're players that have been there and done it, like sort of throughout all the levels within non-league football that are highly respected and that obviously know what they're doing. Like they get the physicality of it, they get what, like they sort of get what it takes to they know what it takes to be up there in and around the playoffs. And it's great that like maybe this year, like it was last year, we could end up with like maybe at least three out of 4 teams within the playoffs in the league being from the northeast. So fingers crossed that can happen. I mean, it would be, obviously for me as a Gateshead fan, it would be nice to see Dunstan go up. Like, obviously there's always been that connection there. Obviously the connection there we're having now, where obviously they were great to us in our time in need. Like, can't forget that. But obviously with Dunstan, like a lot of it now is to do with the people like involved there. Like you think, as I mentioned, Phil Turnbull, Craig Baxter, John Shaw, like, so it would be nice for them to be able to see them sort of go up and all being able to sort of celebrate together again.
Oh, we're really good. Moving on to the last 3 teams in the league, a bit more further down the table, probably sitting around possibly where they should be. If not, I know a couple of teams that we're going to mention in a second a little bit higher. Starting with North Shields, sitting in 10th place, 22 points. Good draw Saturday, 1-1 against Stockbridge. 5 unbeaten in October. Lots of draws, but for me, it's probably about around where you would expect to see this season. Obviously, being not too new to the league as well. I mean, what's your thoughts on Shields and sitting around about the same place, would you say, where they should be?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think, as I said, I don't think, like, obviously, it probably used to be the case where, like, teams have just got to go up from the Northern League and do really well in the league above. But I think, as I said a little bit earlier on, that the gap between the Northern League and the other Step 5, Step 6 leagues has sort of narrowed a bit. But I think, like I think North Shields will be relatively happy with how the season's going so far. I don't think it will end up, like, it's obviously nothing majorly spectacular, but then again, it didn't really need to be. I mean, I saw them earlier on in the season against Tadcaster. It was a very gritty 2-1 win, but it just showed that, see, you go to North Shields, like, it's again a bit of a psychological thing. Who wants to go to North Shields on a Wednesday night? So I think with them, maybe a bit like Hebben, it's maybe going to be a case of sort of buying the time of it. And I think maybe in a couple of years you could see them push on and be sort of challenging in and around the playoffs.
Yeah, a couple of sides coming up now, struggling kind of down the bottom half. Starting with Concert sitting in 16th on 19 points. Obviously, Coils Hill, Lee Fawcett comes in, 2 draws, 11 lost, but it's a tough run coming up as well. I know I was just checking out the fixtures the other day, and it's some really hard games coming up, and you've got to wonder kind of where the wins and the points are going to come from. It's really hard times down there, Concert, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm a little bit surprised by that. I thought it'd be like really well equipped for it. Like I think, obviously, in the years leading up to them finally getting promoted out of the Northern League, like you'd see them several times, and I mean when they turned it on, like God, teams barely stood a chance. Like you just think how big they are. Sort of like Concerts, like what I've always sort of associated with them. They've always been a team of big lads, but they've never really been dirty, and they really know how to sort of work the ball. And I remember just after lockdown, I saw them away at CM. They beat them 6-2, and they just absolutely like annihilated them. And and I think that I think on reflection of that game, maybe 6-2 wasn't too bad a scoreline for CM. That's just how clinical and how good Concert were. But I'm not sure what's happened there. I don't know what the situation's been like with players and things like that. But I thought maybe be a bit higher. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I thought they'd be in the playoffs or anything like that. But we'll wait and see. I mean, again, it could just be they could just be in the teething process. Like obviously going up to a new league, more travelling and what have you. But we'll wait and see. Like it's still early days for them in that division. I think they will still stay up fairly comfortably. So yeah, it's just going to be a time of where Concert fans and what have you probably just going to have to be patient. And I think eventually, I think eventually once they've settled into the division, they'll be all right. And I think maybe again next couple of years could be sort of challenging at the end of the table, where all football fans want to see their team.
Yeah, that's it. Like you say, hopefully with the games coming up December, January, February, I think the home games will be massive for them when it's like -15 up a Concert and teams coming up. They'll just not fancy that at all. And I think if they just need someone just to kind of start putting the ball in the back of the net. I know, obviously, one of my favourite strikers ever of the Northern League, Mickey Mackay. I mean, if they get him back for a few games, put the ball in the back of the net, I'm sure that would sort the problem out short term. But it just needs someone to start putting that ball in the back of the net. Finishing off with Shildon, sitting in 19th now, 13 points, sitting second bottom. It's really looking tough at the moment. Obviously not looking good. Obviously, manager comes in, leaves about 5 or 6 days later. But the last few, win and 2 draws, things are picking it up for them. Do you think it is a little bit too late, or do you think that they are starting now to kind of get a bit more stability and somebody in charge that's getting the group together to hopefully get out of the danger area?
Well, Shildon are another club that I've heard 1 or 2 rumours about. Maybe that they don't really they've had a go in this league, and maybe they don't really want to be here anymore and want to go back into the Northern League. But they've really dropped off this season, haven't they? I think.
Yeah, massively.
I think last season they were beaten they finished 5th and were beaten in the playoff semi-final, but they really had a good go in that playoff semi-final, and obviously they were beaten in extra time. I think they went 1-0 down after 75 minutes, but then equalised almost straight away. And if you'd have told me after they'd scored that goal in that playoff semi-final that they wanted to go back down, it would have been like, what? Because honestly, the way they celebrated it and everything, they looked like they were wanting to push on even further. And I think Shildon, where they're at now in terms of the standard of the ground and things like that, I think maybe the infrastructure's there. I just don't know. Is it a financial issue? I really don't know what's happening there. It's not as if it's not as if the situation for them is like it was for Pickering, where they're just out in the sticks in with sort of nothing else around them. Like they're in a not too bad a location. Like Darlington's not too far away. They can maybe attract players from the Durham area. Maybe even like so they've got. So it's not as if they're in a sort of bad area where they can't recruit players or anything like that. So I don't know what's happening. I don't know if it's if it's just a case of the maybe struggling a bit to sort of justify being able to financially to financially sort of fund all the travelling and everything that's involved in that league.
Very difficult. Ethan, Geordie, thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate your support as well. I know, like you say, they've got a cracking striker down there, obviously Billy Grewach-Smith, and I would imagine if things don't kind of pick up, there'll be a few sides. I mean, you look at even just teams above them and even teams in the divisions above them will certainly take a gamble on him. Well, not a gamble because you know he will score goals for you, because that'll be really interesting as well. But yeah, Dan, just want to say a huge thank you for coming on, especially late as well. Obviously, it's just so nice to talk about the North East football and just what we have now. We've got the Northern League, this Division 1 East, the Northern Premier. The next step, well, we've got just good teams in every division now leading up the Football League. It's a nice stepping stone to have now, isn't it?
Absolutely, and long may that continue. Like, it'd be nice if the teams that are doing quite well in the divisions at the minute, like Darlington and South Shields, it'd be nice if that could continue. Obviously, for me, it'd be nice if Gateshead could string a few results together and start looking in the right direction going into the new year. So there's a lot to keep your eye on going into the second half of the season. There's going to be very few teams that are basically going to get to the back end of the season and basically just be a sitting duck.
Definitely. And Matt's just saying, being a great watch, lads. Yeah, thank you, Matt, for watching. Really appreciate it as well. And like I say, I would imagine lots of highlights coming up on your channel as well, Dan. If you can, just for everyone that's watching, your channel name.
It's DB30 Sports TV. Back on Saturday with a big game from the National League North, Scarborough Athletic against Brackley Town. A massive game at the top of that league. I don't know if you could hand Scarborough in with the whole North East situation, but even so, it'd be nice to see them win and maybe even get themselves up to third, second, or depending on how results go, maybe even top of the league by Saturday night. But yeah, I do quite a lot of Gateshead games as well. Sort of cover as much Northern League as I can, Wayside League, Northern Premier League. So it's all sort of there. So hopefully, if you've not seen it before, you'll check it out, and hopefully you'll enjoy it.
No, brilliant channel. And like you say, Dan's a part of the admin team, part of the North East Non-League show in the group as well, and that's starting to really pick up. I think we've had about 50 new people join over the last few days, which is amazing. Now we're forced to be coming up to more of our games of the weekend as well, so keep an eye out on that. Myself, I'll be around Sunderland West End versus Brighton on Saturday, getting another video vlog, getting on the pitch and speaking to the managers before the game. Can't wait for that. As well, in the final live show coming up on Sunday, got Mickey Barron coming on to have a bit chat about his career before we have a little break over the Christmas period. Nice little family break before we get back to things in January. Fully booked up for January already. Absolutely crazy the amount of people that's wanting to come on and get the interview. So really looking forward to the new year as well. But again, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe, and we really appreciate your support. But again, thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your night as well.